Yeah, that's what I was.
I'd like to call to order the Public Safety Committee, Monday, December 20th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. Is Counselor O'Sullivan on? I don't believe so, so he may be logging in from home as a member, sitting member of the committee, and we'll bring him on then. Having called to order, do I have approval of the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Minutes pass. The meeting is open to public comment for items that are not on the agenda. 2 minutes. We have nobody in the video queue and nobody in the general public, so we will move on. Department updates, starting with fire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For our November report, we responded to 52 incidents, which brings our total to 668. But there are some administrative calls in there, like we discussed earlier. Training hours were 406, and I'll hit some training topics very shortly. 0 injuries reported, and the staffing is still remaining about constant. As you can see, 16 on Old Main Street, 20 on New Britain Avenue, 17 on Main Street, 6 in the fire police, 12 in the staff, and 2 cadets. And we have 7 leaves of 7 various leaves. We put on 1 new member last month. A couple other things. The Marine unit was taken off the line for the winter, and our neighboring departments have been notified of the same. We received 6 AEDs to replace our old defibrillators in the apparatus. The 2 new gear washing extractors, which is part of our cancer prevention program, were installed at Station 2 and Station 3. And we conducted our annual hose test, which we're required to do. And we tested 22,025 linear feet of various diameters. 810 didn't successfully pass the test, equaling about a 4% failure rate, which is pretty much what we were expecting. We get about 20 years out of the fire hose, so 4% is just under where we should be with that. Back to training real quick. We have some requisite annual recertifications that we're going through, both on apparatus, qualifying operators as well as drivers, and on self-contained breathing apparatus. And a couple other training topics were cold water rescue, aerial and ladder operations, and as part of the SCBA recalls, we do SCBA emergencies. We have 2 members participating in the Fire 1 certification training, which is being held at the Connecticut Fire Academy in Windsor, and we have 2 members in Fire Service Instructor 1 certification class held by Weathersfield Fire Department. And from a health and safety report, we did have some members test positive due to activities outside the fire stations, and we ended up quarantining 6 members, with another 12 being placed on a watch list. The difference between the quarantines and the watch list are the ones on the watch list were fully vaccinated, and they were able to respond, and we followed the CDC and CCHD guidelines. All members were exposed, were tested as a precaution, and let's see, this did not affect any of our operational effectiveness. And that is about it. Our manpower analysis and the fire marshal's report is in our monthly report. And as requested a couple months ago, I do have some information about I-91 reports. A little direction here. Is it more appropriate now or under new business?
I think what we'll do is hold that off for new business.
Okay.
Because I do have a question. I see that your monthly report reflects like the Route 91 calls. There were 12. So it's definitely the highest number of calls location-wise for the month of all the different locations you go to. Your incident run log,
Oh, okay.
I've counted 12 trips to 91 for motor vehicle accidents. Anyway, we'll go under new business on Route 91.
Yeah, I have the data you recently requested, and I think I can tie that all together.
Thank you.
All right.
Any questions, Councilor Prakash?
Chief, what is the vaccination rate in the department? You might have mentioned it before, but
I believe
You got 83%.
it's 83%, yes.
83%, okay.
And it should be under the health and safety inside the report.
Okay, are there, for now, there are no operational issues, as you mentioned, but is there something we need to prepare for, because this thing is
We
spreading like
did,
wildfire?
we had the exposures, and we had 6 quarantined several weeks ago. We did have discussions about looking into limited response and so forth, and maybe even limiting crew sizes to a driver and 4. But we didn't need to get to that point, so we're still producing, I think the chart shows almost 19 per call, which is all calls, even the one-engine calls. So we're in good shape at this point. We will look at it if we do have another spike, but I'm confident that we can deal with the emergencies as they come.
Thank you. That's all I got. Mr.
Great.
Chairman.
Thank you, Chief. Ambulance, Chief Goodrich.
Thank you, sir. In November, we had a total of 377 calls, which brought up our totals to 3,892. We had 7 refusals, 4 canceled en route. We had 1 untimely, and no opioid calls that were listed for the month of November was listed in any of the charts. We've had 102 hours of 30 hours of training last week, a total of 102 within the last 2 months. Our members are up to 80 people, 4 new members as of 12/1. The month of November was our mandatory training for hazmat, which everybody in the department has to have done on a yearly basis. We also participated in the stuff a truck with the police and the fire department up at Walmart and Westside. And we also are involved on Christmas Eve with the Human Services with the Christmas meal delivery. We're going to have we have 15 families that the EMS are going to participate with transporting meals to.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Councilor O'Sullivan has joined us.
Yes, hello. No questions, thank you.
Councilor Prakash?
No questions at this time.
All right, thank you. Glad to hear the no opioid numbers. Do you have an opioid count for the year, for the past year?
Not with me, no. I've been just getting them on a monthly basis and making sure that we're checking the statistics. I'll get the statistics for the year.
For next time?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Moving on, we're going to ask Chief Custer for the police report.
Okay, for the month of November, we had 3,155 calls for service to our dispatch center. In addition to that, we had 17 criminal arrests for the month. We investigated 33 motor vehicle accidents. We did have 4 DUI arrests the month of November. 58 traffic infractions were issued, and an additional 176 warnings were issued for a total of 234 motor vehicle stops during the month. Animal control responded to 22 complaints for the month. We had 7 community service events, and our training hours were 272 for the month. In terms of staffing, we have presently have 2 vacancies, and I'm happy to announce that both of those will be filled on January 3rd. We have 2 certified officers coming on board, and we'll finally be full staff. So we've been chasing that for a while, and we're finally there. In addition to that, in terms of personnel, I have 1 civilian dispatcher who's been quarantined, COVID quarantined, just for safety's sake. The individual is vaccinated, but there was positive in the family, and he was experiencing some symptoms. He did get tested. The initial test was negative, but we're going to just, take the high road and be safe. Hope to have him back next week. Other than that, we're in good shape. And overall for COVID, we've been really fortunate this year. Maybe one scare here or there, but nothing beyond that. So it's been manageable. Everyone's doing well. Under community service events, officers did participate in the No Shave November, and as a result, they raised $2,200 for the Connecticut Cancer Foundation. Some miscellaneous, the COVID funds that we received from the state, which was used to do the additional patrols in town, as well as to fund overtime for the auto theft task force officers, is basically been used up. We had to use it by December 31st. There's a few $1,000s left just in case between now and then there's an overtime case that comes in with the auto theft unit. But for the most part, we've pretty much have done saturation patrols and high visibility. So they will be coming to an end, obviously. In terms of the Greater Hartford Auto Theft Task Force, so as you're aware, we have an officer participating on that full-time, and we did have an additional detective working with them part-time. So again, that whole unit was funded from those COVID funds, so that will be coming to an end on December 31st as well. But I just wanted to give you some overall stats from that unit. So by the time these funds came in, and we were able to get the team organized and up and running, it's been 10 weeks. So in the 10 weeks that the officers have been together, they have recovered a total of 86 stolen motor vehicles. They've made 30 stolen vehicle arrests. They've recovered 10 firearms. They served an additional 31 warrants. And then there was an additional 19 arrests that would be for ancillary charges, not maybe directly related to stolen motor vehicles. But the reality is these officers their investigations were not just limited to stolen motor vehicles. As they were tracking these cases and these people involved, they were involved in incidents of robberies, assaults, larcenies, even shots fired. And as a result, numerous vehicles and suspects have been stopped and identified by the task force officers. It's been extremely helpful to us participating in this unit. The relationship with us in Hartford PD and the surrounding Greater Hartford towns was greatly strengthened during this task force. There's already been discussion of extending it beyond the 31st because of the success that we've had. But of course, the problem is, the funding. So we'll have that discussion as chiefs. Maybe, for Rocky Hill, we can keep, our people involved at least a part-time basis. I do think there's a benefit by establishing those relationships, having those contacts. As you know, recently we had an incident in town where shots were fired. And it was through the assistance of actually our people and this Greater Hartford Auto Theft Task Force that the individual who shot the firearm was located in Hartford. The vehicle was located in Hartford, and we recovered the car that was involved. So again, just because of our relationship, because we have been participating and we're all working together, they were able to assist us. In a mere few hours after the incident, we identified who was involved, made an arrest, and recovered the vehicle. I think it's sensational. So we'll see how that develops moving forward. I'll keep you posted, but it's really been a benefit, in my opinion, to Rocky Hill. The last thing I wanted to report is we just were notified by the state, and I think you may be aware of it, that we received a $20,000 Jag Grant, which is basically a law enforcement grant. It comes down from the feds, and obviously we're going to accept that money, and we got an idea of what we want to do. Probably the bulk of that money will be going towards an upgrade in our regional auto, regional fatal motor vehicle team, accident team, reconstruction team. They're in desperate need of some equipment upgrades. So I've talked to the chiefs of the other 4 towns, and we're going to pool some of our monies. We have to enhance some of their computerized mapping systems and so forth, and it's all big bucks. So bulk of that $20,000 will be our share towards that, but we'll also have roughly about $7,000 left to do equipment upgrades in the department. So again, I'll do a follow-up report next month on that, but that's coming down, and hopefully we get the funds very soon. And that's all I have.
Any questions, Councilor O'Sullivan?
Yeah, a couple. Thank you for that update, Chief. The new officers who are coming online next month, are these brand new hires right out of the academy, or are they laterals?
So these are laterals, both certified officers. One individual is a certified Hartford police officer, Hispanic female, who's only been on the job 5 years. So it's not a retirement. She's making a transfer over to our agency. The other officer is a 20-year veteran from Newington, who just recently retired to come on board with us. Both excellent individuals. We're very pleased to have them joining us. Overall, Bill, the quality of the laterals has been fantastic, and they fit in seamlessly with our people, and they've been a real asset to our organization. What I try to do when we do look at laterals is mix between younger and older. So, there are a couple in there that have already had 20 or 25-year careers with another town, but I think there's only maybe 3 of those, and the rest of them have been officers either 5 or less years. So it's worked out well.
Okay, great. And just with respect to the multi-town motor vehicle task force, which I think is a fantastic development. Can you explain for us a little bit, Chief? To what extent are you incurring new expense and new personnel versus redeploying resources that you already had, just kind of in a different way? Because we have this issue of the COVID money expiring pretty soon, so unless that's renewed or extended in some fashion, the expense will be in-house, so to speak. But I'm just wondering to what extent that's actually the new expense, new resources versus kind of a redeploying what we already have.
Yeah, that's basically what's going to happen. So this COVID money came in. We had $33,000. And it came in a timely fashion in terms of its holidays, right? And we always see a little bit of an uptick during the holidays. So we decided to use the bulk of that money to basically enhance our normal patrols, do some saturation patrols in some of the problem areas we've had in town, stolen motor vehicles, catalytic converters, etc. So it's been really a high visibility kind of strategy. And I think it's had some benefits. We saw things stabilize for a while. Now that money's drying up, what we're going to do is we're going to continue those with existing personnel. Not necessarily on overtime, because I won't have to, because the council was gracious enough to give us some additional staff in the last budget, and it's just taken us this long to catch up and get the people in. So as of January 3rd, we'll be full staffed, and we'll have 2 or 3 additional officers that we didn't have last year. So I think we're going to be able to absorb that, and we'll be fine without overtime.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you for the update, Chief.
My pleasure.
Questions, Councilor Prakash?
Yeah, so, Chief, couple of questions. First one is probably the shorter one, and I'll start with that. For the patrol officers, the new patrol officers, I'm calling them patrol officers because I'm assuming they'll go on patrol, right?
Right.
And then the detective who was on patrol, is he going to be reassigned? I remember, I think that's still the case?
He will remain in patrol.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we'll have 3 additional.
We're picking up 3, and and that's where we'll have that flexibility. Even though that COVID funding is going to go away, we'll have that flexibility with the extra personnel.
Right. Yeah, and the second question I had is, again, going back to the incident which happened, you mentioned in your comments. I wanted to know, what is the protocol in terms of how we communicate to the elected officials in town when an incident like this happens, right? So is there a process in place? Because during the time between the incident happened and got emails and heard about it from firsthand from the mayor or the town manager, it was probably 3, 4, 5 hours, and people start reaching out, right? And what you have to look at is Facebook posts, which can be very misleading, and then it brings its own confusion in the mess, because once you have an incident which is related to school safety, right? I can imagine being a parent, parents are concerned. So they start, latching on to Facebook posts and things like that. And I don't know if you caught any of that, but there is a whole lot of discussion going on there, which creates additional rumor mills. So then my direct question is really about, and maybe the town manager has to chime in on this as well, about a protocol. If there is a protocol in place, what is it for mayor to be informed? And if it doesn't exist, shouldn't we have one?
I'm sorry, I had to check on another meeting I was in before I came in here. I think generally the protocol is whenever the police is doing an investigation, they're doing the investigation to try to find out the facts of the case, and then when they are ready to release information to the public, then generally they put out a press release doing that. So it's more they're controlling their investigation so that information is not getting out before it's necessary to get out of hand. Now, the one that you were talking to, referencing about reflected a school, and I think what was happening is it occurred near a school, and the police officers investigating it recommended that they go into a soft shutdown. And I think it was within 20 to a half an hour after the incident occurred. What happened was that the superintendent released an email minutes after the shutdown went in to all the residents and so on, and didn't really include the town side on his email, so that I didn't know anything about it. I believe police, fire, and everyone else didn't know anything about it. Then it hit the public, and then it spread, and then calls started going in. Then once we found out about it, I talked to the chief. He updated me on what was going on, and then we released something briefly. And I think later that day, police released a press release, and later that night, something came out about arresting the second I can't think of a better word than villain. But I think the problem there was that the Board of Ed jumped into their protocol notifying the parents where the town sort of takes the approach of letting the police do their investigation, and when they think it's appropriate to release information that doesn't cause harm to their release information that doesn't affect their investigation, that's when we do
Yeah,
that.
and I totally agree with that sentiment.
But again,
generally,
this
right?
last
Like-
one here it all happened within less than an hour.
Yeah,
so on,
I'm
so.
just trying to figure out if there's a way to avoid confusion, right? And we have a new emergency management director here, so I think we can get a protocol together probably for situations like this. And again, Chief, I completely understand what the town manager is saying about not putting your investigation in jeopardy, basically, and that I think we all agree on that. But I think there should be a mechanism to inform the residents of the town who get really nervous for really good reason about these incidents. And I don't think we can lag behind like hours on these things. Thank God it was a soft lockdown and everything turned out to be fine. But I want to be prepared for an event, God forbid, right, where we have to actually communicate with people and give them information in a timely manner, right? So I took this opportunity, Chief, with your comments, but I think I want to have, John, a discussion, maybe in the next public safety, bringing, and emergency management and obviously the chiefs, and set up a protocol for something like this in the future, where we can have, an investigation which is not jeopardized, but at the same time, we have a way to communicate with the residents in a timely manner, like I said before. And I understand, John, you were not aware, probably, Board of Ed should have, informed you and put you in the loop, right? But I think that's what we need to fix.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify what John was saying, generally this is not a problem, and it works out fine. We can communicate and do what we have to do. This particular case, it was a fluid case. It was ongoing. It came in, initially as a drive-by shooting, a road rage, then a domestic. So, we're trying to figure out what we have, figure out who's involved, et cetera. So, initially that's our focus, not calling anyone or,
Absolutely.
We're trying to figure out what we have. But in this particular case, because it happened near the schools, and we didn't know exactly what we were dealing with, we erred on the side of caution by ordering the soft lockdown.
Sure.
Okay, which was the right thing to do. And as part of that, the superintendent is notified. And again, we're still investigating and operating at, on the scene and trying to figure out what we have. What nobody knew he was going to do and didn't convey to us or John or anyone, that he was going to send a blast, I guess it was an email blast out
Right.
to all the parents.
All parents.
So now they get it, right? They assume the worst, and now you get flooded, and you get flooded, and he gets flooded with calls, and nobody knows anything because obviously
Right.
we haven't even. So
Yeah, I
it
think-
was an unusual circumstance, but I think we can tighten it up. I agree with what you're saying. It could take
Yeah, I think it's just about that. Like, it's really about tightening and putting people the stakeholders, in the loop, including like, you, John, and the chiefs and the emergency director and the mayor probably. I think that will be the loop. We don't need to know. We can hear from the mayor, and that's fine. It becomes a problem when, the mayor doesn't know, I think, because we all reached out to the mayor, and I don't think mayor had up-to-date information, as we discussed, because it was a fluid situation. So I just want to address this, and if we can talk about this in the next meeting a little bit, John, put this on the agenda for new business and try to put together a plan for a situation like this. And maybe it will fall under emergency management, but I will let you decide that,
Okay.
John. Thank you.
Councilor O'Sullivan.
Yeah, just to follow up on that. So in this particular instance, or anything like this, where there's a mass communication going out about a school shutdown or anything else school related, I mean, would it be as simple as instructing the superintendent and people who work for him as a matter of protocol that they should be copying the mayor, the town manager, the chiefs, et cetera, and communications of that type?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And has that message been delivered to the superintendent yet?
No, I haven't talked to him about it yet.
If you're at liberty to disclose that.
Yeah, so everyone here has concurred with your statement, and no, the communication hasn't been sent to the superintendent, but I think you're right on with that, is if he's going to do a blast email out regarding public safety to all parents, the town manager and the police chief and the fire chief and need to be on the loop, and whoever else as we develop this communication network, whoever else needs to be on that initial loop, and then those folks can take care of ancillary groups from there. So good point.
Yeah, and I know, like, you've been, doing a great job, like, in general, like, with all these, TikTok and, like, all kinds of social media, like, divergence, like, which happen every day now. But I think we need to be on top of this because it's just something which makes people, for good reason, like I said, very nervous. And I think just showing that we are on top of this will help.
And to reiterate, this particular incident was controlled. The individuals concerned were identified right away within the hour, and the police department had everything under control. There was no further safety issue for the general public or the students. So that's the good point, but anybody listening in, I want you to know that incident was well under control and into the first hour of the incident happening. So that's the good news. This takeaway is that we want to improve the communication tree.
Right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, emergency management.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. Just want to first off start by thanking the town officials, the council, the department heads, the chiefs and their staff for the cooperation with this new position. I've had a lot of feedback. I've been working with most everybody. There's still a couple of loose ends I need to tie up. I did want to address part of my presentation is to talk a little bit about that communication because we do have some things in place. As for the Emergency Management Department, I want to thank the former individuals. They've done a tremendous job of giving me a great platform to work with, a very comprehensive plan. So we do have some things in place that we can put into effect to help with that communication. As for the current initiatives that I'm working on, if you look at the handout, we talk a little bit about weekly and emergency update memos. Every Friday we've been putting out a COVID message to all of the executive staff. So everybody's been in the loop on that, and I'm sure Mr. Brown will have some further information on that. We talk about a new notification system for town officials related to the emergencies. And again, understanding that was kind of a unique situation where the Board of Education may have put out that memo prior to us having information. I've been working with the assistant superintendent on that communication, so anything that the school puts out will go through emergency management. We're going to be talking amongst the department heads as well as if there's any type of emergencies that go out, they'll let us know. And we do have the town officials and the council contacts where we can send those out. We've done a couple of them. I think they've been fairly successful as far as notification in relation to, I believe we had a couple of fire events that we notified the council on. So I'm going to put that in firmer writing and get that out to all department heads over the next week, and we're going to kind of have a little better line of communication. We can address it at the next meeting. We talked about establishing quarterly meetings related to key town components for emergencies and disasters. And if the chiefs or the head officials aren't available, we're going to have representatives of their departments that will be able to step in their place. We're investigating the practicality of a community emergency response team, a CERT team. The CERT team in town would be more of an assistance to human services, the senior center, as well as in the case of a large-scale emergency or even a minor emergency, townwide event, something of that nature. We're looking at doing some tabletop events over the course of the next 6 to 8 months. The first is the police department. We're going to be doing a specific one for PD as part of their certifications, so we'll get that done probably February. And then over the summer, we're looking at doing an active shooter, where we'll have all the town agencies participate. Sheltering guidelines and locations for emergencies and non-emergency situations. We looked at the sheltering. We realized that there were some hiccups, minor hiccups in the sheltering prospects. So we're looking at changing some of the locations and working with those different department heads to assist in making that happen. There's some flooding concerns in the Lakeview area, which the mayor had mentioned, and I'm working with Steve Soplek from DPW to address those issues. We're looking at funding for a road project that may need to come up because we do have a situation where if we get that water over the road, there's an isolation factor of about a dozen homes. So the accessibility for those during summer storms, tornadoes, hurricanes, things of that nature could be compromised. So we're going to take a look at that. And then since my arrival in October, we've had 2 weather-related events, the October 18th autumn nor'easter, excuse me, the December 8th windstorm advisory, where we had some high winds that were called for. In both of those situations, there were minimal call-outs to DPW for trees down, wires down. We had no loss of power during either of those incidents. As you know, the COVID class has changed. We've gone into the red. And again, hopefully, Mr. Brown can give us a little more information on that. But again, the change has been required. And that's in the weekly updates that are coming out, and I believe everybody's been receiving them on a regular basis. I've been periodically checking with the department heads. 3 localized emergencies. There was a gas leak where we had to relocate some residents off of Dividend Road. We also had a gas leak at the Muse that required a relocation of 6 people. And again, the soft lockdown in the school, which was a result of a road rage situation. And that's it for the emergency management.
Any questions? Councilor O'Sullivan?
Thank you.
Councilor Prakash?
Sure, sounds like you have a full plate here, but from the active shooter drills to the COVID and so in the next few months, or I would say 2022 probably, in terms of your priorities probably, do you have an idea of what are the things which you want to work on? Couple of priorities if you had to mention.
Yeah, well, the first would be the sheltering. I want to make sure that our sheltering capabilities right now, we have a kind of a little bit of a disjointed situation that we're looking at. We've talked to the town manager. I've talked to some of the department heads. We're going to do some minor readjustments. There'll be a memo going out this week on that. The second thing is the communications, of course. That's a key, and that'll hopefully be resolved by the end of the week. I currently have a memo that's going up for review so that we can ensure that we kind of funnel everything. And it doesn't have to be through me, but at least we have a funnel that we can get it to. And then, again, we can send out that notification to the executive staff and the council personnel that need to know when there's a situation in town, just to be advised of. As for 2022, my goal is to make sure sheltering's in place, talk a little bit about the EOCs. We're going to get to do some of those activities within the next 6 to 8 months as far as the drills that we plan on. So it's kind of a dual concept there.
Great. And thank you for that, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Steve, welcome. It's Steve Pendel. He is director level,
Yes.
Emergency Management Department, working for the Chief Safety Officer of the town, John Mayer, reporting to John Mayer. So thank you for the report. That being said, we are moving on to old business at Charlie. From Charlie Brown from the Central Connecticut Health District on a COVID report.
Yep, I'm here. Hang on a second. Okay. So right now, Rocky Hill, as far as total cases as of this afternoon for COVID, 2,433. Total deaths stands at 135. Vaccination rates for the town, this is as of the 15th, are 5 to 11s, which is one of the groups that just came on. Right now, fully vaccinated 5 to 11s at 22.4% of the population. The 12 to 17-year-olds, 66.6%. 18 to 24, 77%. 25 to 44 at 84.38%. Our 45 to 64s at 78.06%. And our 65 plus, always the winners, at 99.3% fully vaccinated. We currently don't have numbers for boost. I think the state is going to be working on getting that information out in the future. However, what we do have is a whole lot of virus out in the community. If you haven't seen the alert map that the state puts out once a week, it is basically all red except for about 5 towns in the upper northwest corner. Weathersfield, just like many of our towns in the district, jumped up to numbers that we have not seen since the peak of last year. Weathersfield's at 66.5 cases per 100,000 over the past 2 weeks. So there is an awful lot of virus out there. Currently, we don't have any documented cases of Omicron, which is the new variant of concern that many people have seen. It is in the state. There are over 40 cases, I believe, throughout the state. So it's just a matter of time before it does enter the communities. The Omicron virus, from initial studies, we're looking at about 70 times more infectious than what the original strain was. So it will probably take over probably in the next month or so as the dominant strain that's out in the communities. Good news about this one is that it doesn't seem to be more severe, even though it is more infectious. I do caution everyone to take that with a grain of salt because, without it being more severe, just having the numbers of people actually catch this, if it increases, that increases just by statistics the number of people that are going to end up in the hospital and the number of people that are going to end up with adverse events, especially if they have comorbidities. So it's really important at this point, if we have not gotten boosted, if you've been vaccinated, get your booster. If you haven't been vaccinated, now is a great time to do so. We saw an incredible amount of cases after the Thanksgiving holiday, and we're expecting to see a high number after Christmas this as well. So, family gatherings, things of that nature are really driving this surge forward, along with the more infectious nature of the disease. So we are begging people to do the right things if they have not been vaccinated. We are begging people to, wear masks when even if they're fully vaccinated at this point, because it is very evident that this virus is actually still picking up on people who are vaccinated. We've seen a number of breakthrough cases, continue to see those on a regular basis. And the best defense that we have, once again, are those mitigation efforts, the 3 W's: wear a mask, watch your distance, and wash your hands, and vaccination as a whole. And I stand ready to answer any questions.
Thank you, Charlie. Councilor O'Sullivan.
So, Charlie, do you foresee it in the near future that the definition of quote unquote fully vaccinated may change to incorporate a booster?
Yeah, I believe that that's going to change here in the next few weeks. I think the Surgeon General over the weekend had kind of hinted towards that. on some news programs. So I believe it's probably going to change.
Okay. And you know, there was early confusion on the messaging on that I think was unfortunate, although I think the messaging has gotten a lot more consistent in the last few weeks. And I'm wondering if that's your sense of it, and if you think we're making progress in getting the word out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're using that community megaphone with everybody singing from the same sheet of music, from the federal to the state to the local level. So it's been very consistent in the fact of really emphasizing vaccination, and if you're fully vaccinated, to get boosted. It's difficult at this point in campaigns like this to be able to shift people who have already heard a lot of the information. So you're talking about when we are really pushing this as hard as we can, you know, some people have their minds set, they have their minds made up, and it's very difficult to change that information. A lot of times what it takes, and unfortunately this is the case, is for someone very close to them to become a case and be personally affected by this. And that may change their mind to get vaccinated if they have not done so.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Prakash?
Yeah, Charlie, thanks for the update, the report. Just quick question on the local side of things. Do you know, like, what has been the impact of these rising cases on the nursing home population or the senior population? Like, because we have several of them here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every time we talk about this issue, we can't talk about it without, like, Rocky Hill. Talk about it in Rocky Hill without the nursing home population. Is there any, like, you said there is no Omicron cases in Rocky Hill, right, period? I was just wondering, like, how this breaks down between the general population and the nursing home population, if you have that data.
Yeah, we don't have it broken down between the two of them because they're both considered residents within the population. You know, the long-term care facilities and nursing homes have been pretty good up to this point. You know, most of their folks are completely and fully vaccinated. They do regular testing. We have had one or two that have had cases, but no outbreaks at this point. So they're following up, they're isolating, they're doing what they can. And they are assuring that everybody gets the opportunity to get a booster when they're in their population. So I think there's been a lot of focus on long-term care facilities as a whole, and rightfully so, as we've seen a lot of fatalities associated with them at the beginning of the pandemic. But I think that right now, the mitigation efforts are working. We just hope that we don't find something, you know, that's a lot more severe. And just the other issue, just looking at it, is just with the comorbidities that population has, even a weak case of COVID may be enough to push them over the edge. So, you know, that's why we, I think, are very cautious and very protective of that particular segment, which is why I love seeing 99% of them vaccinated.
Great. Thank you. Actually, one last thing I would ask you is there anything you would do differently than what we are doing now, right? I mean, we mask up, we vaccinate, we mask up, all the things we have been doing for the last, I don't know, couple of years probably at this point. So anything different, or just follow what we have been doing?
Different? No. I think consistent, yes. You know, consistently following the protocols, you know, masking up where it's appropriate. You know, right now we're seeing more virus than we've seen in a very long time in the community. And yet you can go to the supermarkets and you can see people that are, you know, not masked. You can go into, you know, potentially into town buildings and see people that are not masked. So, you know, making sure that we're following those preventive measures as stringently as we possibly can. At this point in the pandemic, you know, there's no rocket science. There's no magic trick that we're going to be able to pull out of our hats to make a huge difference. You know, the tools that we have are the tools that we have. The only thing that we're really lacking at this point, I think, is a really adequate treatment. And they're working on that right now. So having a treatment in place, in addition to the ability to prevent the disease or to mitigate it a little bit through vaccinations, a good test to identify when somebody has it, which we've had for a while, and then adding the treatment to that. If somebody's identified, they can be treated quickly and effectively. At that point, we're going to be able to start to turn, kind of on this virus and be able to start to manage the disease more effectively. Without that treatment card, there's only so much that we can do. We can limit the spread, but we can't really tamp it down. Treatment becomes one of the biggest factors, I think, in the future, that I am holding my breath and waiting for FDA to, and for those who are doing the research and development to be able to come out with that. Other than that, like I said, I think that, being consistent in using the tools that we have is the biggest thing that I can ask of anyone.
Thanks, Charlie.
Charlie, will you be kind enough? You have my email address, right? You gave some numbers out, the vaccination percentage rates by age group. Would you mind emailing that to me quickly so I have it for council meeting?
Yeah, I'll send that right to you.
Ed at rcllc.com. That's my.
Okay.
That way I can just get it on my phone quicker.
And at
rcllc.com.
.com. Okay.
All right, and I just want to make sure that.
Right.
Yep. Thank you. I just want to make sure if the chiefs have any questions of you. Anybody? Any final questions? Emergency management?
Nope.
Nope.
No, good.
Charlie, any opioid numbers for the district?
Not at this point. I'll try to remember next month, if y'all can remind me to have some yearly numbers for Rocky Hill put together, so that we can kind of close that out. We do follow those statistics. I just don't have them prepared for me right now.
And anything on any other, so going forward, report on mental health, and I know police, Chief Custer reached out to us concerned about the number of mental health calls in the monthly requests, call requests for service had upticked sharply, and we were able to appropriate ARP funds to our Health and Services Department. Has that gotten up and going with you? Do we have those resources ready to go for patrol officers?
Yeah, we're not there yet as far as that's concerned. We still need to get a meeting together of the 4 towns to be able to discuss how we can support them. The surge at this point was really kind of carried us away because we were seeing just an enormous amount of cases to be able to trace and follow up on. And when that happens, unfortunately, just, we're not able to reach out and make the time to be able to follow up on some of these things. I will try to make it a priority here shortly, okay?
Yeah, we just appropriated the funds, so we're going to start asking now going forward. Chief Custer, anything on that front to add regarding mental health and in service calls?
Just to piggyback off of what Charlie said, there's just been discussions at this time, and then checking with the Capital Region chiefs, the other towns are in the same boat. So it's on the list, but there hasn't really been any formal activity with it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Charlie. New business. We're jumping back to fire for discussion on our Route 91 highway emergency calls.
And to give this report a little context, we've had several discussions, myself and the chairman, over the past few months about I-91 highway incidents and what we can do to streamline the town's response. To start with, I'd like to provide a little background data. So far in 2021, Rocky Hill Fire has responded to 667 scene calls. Of this, 77 were to I-91, and this equates to about 11.5% of the department's runs. And as we discussed earlier, We mentioned 91. It's a pretty constant number, that 11.5%. And the types of calls we're responding to up there are motor vehicle accidents involving extrication, EMS assists, brush, grass fires, car fires, and hazardous material incidents. And the typical asset assignment that the town sends for motor vehicle accidents, extrications, EMS, and hazmat is 2 rescue pumpers and a heavy rescue truck. For fire-related calls, the assignment is 3 engines. Along with the apparatus, we send 3 command cars to the highway. This equates to about 20 members on each call. And on-scene first responders typically include EMS, Connecticut State Police, Fire Department, Rocky Hill Police if there's an incident-specific request, and I can think of one over the summer where State Police asked for PD assistance up there, and you know what? Rocky Hill PD was up there. They asked us to step back. There was some type of activity going on, and I was grateful to have them up there, you know, making it seem safe for us. And also DEP is there after a scene-specific request. Where we get bogged down in the incident is the post-incident or post-emergency traffic blocking. And I think it's best if I give you an example. About 6 weeks ago, we had a Jackknifed tractor-trailer accident, which occurred about 4:30 in the morning. It was on a weekday, and it was northbound right by the Orchard Street Bridge. And one tractor-trailer hit the rear of a second tractor-trailer. There was considerable damage to the tractor that did the hitting. The other tractor proceeded, and it took up the right 2 lanes. The driver had minor injuries and signed an EMS refusal. The saddle tanks on the tractor-trailer were gone and leaked about 75 gallons of diesel fuel, plus the gallons and gallons of engine oil, as well as coolant. We were able to place absorbent booms in speedy dry downhill to contain the leak. There's a little bit of a downhill grade there. However, prior to our arrival, the fuel made it into the storm drains. There was also a concern. Those storm drains lead to the stream that runs alongside the Pheasant Drive area, crosses Orchard Street, crosses the highway, and runs out to the river. DEP and DOT were notified, and DEP arrived within 45 minutes, but they were also on the phone with the incident commander getting a situational report within 10 minutes. Crash trucks were requested at the same time from DOT, and they arrived at about 7:15 in the morning. Fire department assets, town assets were there until DOT provided scene safety in the form of those crash trucks. So by staying on scene, our assets didn't return to service, and contingencies were developed to provide additional coverage for town. So long story short, Ed, you asked where you could help. If we could somehow work with DOT to shorten their response time for the crash trucks, this would allow town assets, fire department assets to return to service in a more timely manner. You do need to have blockers up there. The highway is a very dangerous area. We have protocols up there between CSP, PD, EMS, where we place them within the block. You know, we try to provide as much scene safety as possible. The only other assets coming large enough to provide that scene safety are the DOT dump trucks with the crash trailers. And they seem to take a little extra time to get there. We would appreciate whatever help. I talked to some of the other local fire chiefs who have the limited access highway response. And we're all on the same page with this. This is where we can use it. It's not a monetary assistance. It's more time and returning assets to service. And going back to protecting the town.
I'm going to just open it up quickly. Counselor O'Sullivan, any questions on that report?
Yeah, just on the last point about, the DOT assets and kind of, handing it back off from the town to the DOT. Are those, the assets you're talking about, are those dispersed around the state, or are they very centrally, located so that you just have this kind of, weight that's inevitable because they have to travel a long distance? How's that? What are the logistics of that?
I understand there's at least one truck ready to go at every department garage. We have one on Brook Street, although that's more of a supply depot. I want to say the closest ones to us are maybe Goff Road in Weathersfield or right over the bridge in Glastonbury.
Okay.
I do want to emphasize, though, DOT does what's currently expected of them. I think we need to change the expectations and see if we can somehow find a way to get their response more timely.
Okay.
Counselor Prakash?
So it's not.
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
not an issue. It's not an issue then of long distances required. As far as that handover is concerned, it sounds like it's more a matter of procedures and communication, that sort of thing.
I would agree with that, Bill, yes.
Okay. Thanks.
So, Chief, more of like on the side of the problem solving on this, right? I wanted to see like where your thoughts are on how to approach this, right? Like, is this, have we brought this up with a state rep and state senator, or that is the right way to approach this, or is it more about the town council and the mayor talking to the administration, and then the DOT and the commissioner? Like, what would be the right approach to solving this issue, or at least like mitigating some of the concerns you have in terms of response times and things like that? Because it looks like it's more of like a DOT, operational issue. So how to tackle that? Like, I was wondering, like, what would you suggest?
And I think Ed's going to probably help me out with this answer, because that's how this all started. I believe this came in as an inquiry from the state rep looking for information about highway runs. Am I correct, Ed?
Correct. We've been noting that the 11.5% is sometimes more in any given month. As a matter of fact, just this month, on your incident report, on your traffic, I guess get the incident run log, 12 of those listed out were to 91. So we're noting that we're spending an awful lot of time. We have a major stretch of 91 that seems to be coming out, producing these accidents, and we were concerned that this was costing us a lot of money out of our fire department budget, our public safety budget, and State Representative Kerry Wood overheard that at the meeting, and she said, "Look, get me some numbers, do some research, and I'll see what I can do to help you alleviate any financial burden that you're suffering." And at this point, we just feel like the burden is more. The town has a reduced number of rescue trucks, reduced number of rescue pumpers, of engines. If you send 3 engines down there, we're at risk as a community until those can come back off of 91. So, we're going to look to our state rep through the mayor's office and through the town manager's office and report this information up and see what our state rep has for a suggestion as to how to proceed. But she's aware that this report was coming. It's just taken us a while to pull the numbers together.
Yeah, and thank you. Thanks, Chief. I think that's an awfully high number, I think. In context, right? Like, if you think about it, 10% flat, right? Every month, pretty much, right? So I think there is something to be addressed here for sure. So we'll I guess, put it up the chain, and then we'll see where we go with it. But thanks for the report.
Hey, thank you.
John, any comments on that so far?
No. Mike did look into it, and again, it seemed like it's not high cost dollar-wise. It's just more from a safety
Right.
issue as far as the trucks being concerned. But I think it's easier said than done to try to get the DOT to change their policy and procedures where they may not have the staff on available during certain hours, Mike, or perhaps. And
Yeah, they're more of a maintenance. From what I understand, they're more maintenance, and their regular business hours 7 to 4:30 or whatever it might be. We're asking for call-ins, and we're asking for more expeditious call-ins, quicker call-ins, and that whole process is out of my wheelhouse. I can identify the problem, but that one's a little bigger than us.
Yep, understood.
And probably being an interstate highway is probably more of the state's responsibility than the town, as opposed to a town road.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that new business report. Any other new business? I don't think so. Approval of do I have a motion to approve the 2022 meeting dates that are in the packet?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve the 2022 meetings calendar.
Second the motion.
Motion is seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Now pass. Other, I don't believe we have other reports. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.